Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, continues to be a central figure in discussions surrounding the British royal family, with a new publication offering an in-depth examination of his life and controversies. A former Member of Parliament and author of royal biographies recently engaged with a fellow author whose latest work, entitled, delves in the Duke's ascent and subsequent decline. The author of Entitled initiated the project following the completion of The Traer King in 2021, conceptualizing it as the concluding part of a trilogy exploring distinctive royal marital arrangements, Lord Mountbatten's open marriage, the Duke of Windsor's significant love affair, and what has been termed the happiest divorced couple ever, Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson. The decision to write about Prince Andrew was prompted by his ongoing presence in news reports concerning his association with Jeffrey Epstein. A particular impetus was the 2019 Newsnight interview, which the author felt underscored the necessity for more thorough scrutiny of the Duke's conduct. The author's broader literary focus often involves dissecting how historical narratives are constructed and how the royal family frequently shapes its own public image. In the case of Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, the author believed that the complete story remained unknown. Research, primarily through physical newspaper archives, revealed that Andrew had been consistently portrayed by the press as a bad boy from his early years, indicating a more extensive and long-standing pattern of behavior than generally perceived. The author anticipates further developments in the unfolding narrative surrounding Prince Andrew. Potential future events include Sarah Ferguson's possible testimony or plea bargain, the emergence of additional victims, and the potential release of more comprehensively unredacted material by the US Department of Justice. A parliamentary inquiry in Andrew's tenure as a trade envoy could also yield new information, as could an investigation by the Public Accounts Committee in the Crown Estate. Should formal charges be brought against Prince Andrew and a trial proceed, it is expected that a significant volume of new details would surface. Prince Andrew's actions are described as having initiated a Pandora's box of complications for both himself and the wider royal family. He has consistently declined offer assistance in matters related to Jeffrey Epstein, famously stating his willingness to provide every possible assistance short of help. This non-cooperation extends US authorities. A proposal for a mutual legal assistance treaty from the Americans was reportedly rejected by the British side, specifically by then Home Secretary Priti Patel, which has led suggestions of a potential cover-up on both sides of the Atlantic. Andrew's demeanour appears to convey a sense of invincibility. Currently, US authorities are reportedly refusing to cooperate with British police, denying access redacted emails. This refusal has been speculated to stem from pressure exerted by former President Trump or a potential agreement involving the king. The author suggests that it may not be in anyone's best interest to pursue the matter vigorously, although a public appearance of doing so is deemed necessary. The book provides extensive historical detail on Prince Andrew's background. He is consistently ranked as the least popular member of the royal family in public opinion polls. Recent incidents, such as his refusal to fly the flag on his birthday, sparked a council flag revolt. Residents of Prince Andrew's Close have expressed desires for a name change, and the City of York has formally stripped him of its freedom. When queried about Andrew's emotional state regarding these developments, whether he experiences guilt, shame, arrogance, or anger, the author believes Andrew primarily concerns himself with minor issues, such as parking his cars or his inability to ride horses. He reportedly exhibits no empathy for the victims involved in the Epstein scandal. Both Andrew and Sarah Ferguson are perceived to view themselves as victims of unfair targeting. Andrew is believed to dismiss press coverage as mere clickbait and maintains that he has been unjustly treated, believing that remaining silent will eventually resolve his predicament. Sarah Ferguson, conversely, is described as seeking revenge, feeling let down by a royal family that largely protected her for years. She is now reportedly inclined to dish the dirt. The royal family has historically maintained a close relationship with her, primarily out of concern for what she might publicly disclose. Prince Andrew has never issued an apology to the victims and reportedly shows no remorse beyond lamenting the loss of his former life at Royal Lodge and his knighthood. He is said to believe he committed no wrongdoing, even during his time as a trade envoy, despite engaging in what are characterized as shady deals. A photograph of him leaving a police station on February 19 reportedly suggests a dawning realization of the gravity of his situation and a profound sense of fear. His delays in moving from Royal Lodge Wood Farm and his general uncooperative behavior are presented as indicative of his strong sense of entitlement and arrogance, particularly at a time when he should be attempting to cultivate goodwill. The book's title, entitled, was chosen by the author after considering alternatives such as Shameless or On the Make. Sarah Ferguson may be contemplating a kiss and tell expose. Having lost her charity affiliations and income, and with diminishing opportunities for paid work, she faces financial constraints despite an extravagant lifestyle. Her potential kiss and tell remains her primary asset and a long-standing threat she has held over the royal family. If she perceives herself as having nothing further to lose, particularly if she feels her daughters are also being marginalized, she may proceed with revelations. Her approach could be subtle, offering praise for figures like Diana and the Queen, while subtly criticizing Prince Philip and King Charles, sufficient to secure a serialization deal and an advance from publishers, potentially mirroring arrangements seen with figures like Oprah. While her daughters possess some financial resources from the sale of a Belgravia property, approximately $4 million, Sarah Ferguson's lavish spending habits are noted, including a reported refusal travel in economy class since her 20s. The more contentious the revelations, the greater the potential financial reward. She might even title a future book Gone Spare. For 34 years, she has reportedly threatened to disclose sensitive information, with each instance resulting in a settlement. It is suggested that King Charles might find it more expedient provide her with a regular stipend, maintain her silence. This situation, more so than the issues involving Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, is creating divisions between King Charles and the Prince of Wales. Prince William is portrayed as more pragmatic and ruthless, primarily concerned with safeguarding the monarchy's reputation and advocating for reform. King Charles, in contrast, is depicted as more conciliatory, feeling a sense of responsibility towards Sarah and Andrew. He reportedly desires an easier life and fears the ramifications of a kiss-and-tell account. Charles is said favour a softer approach, rather than completely severing ties. Sarah Ferguson has previously asserted that she maintained a diary, which she referenced in her autobiography, Finding Sarah. She has reportedly offered just enough hints suggest the extent of the information she possesses. The author speculates she may have reached a point of having nothing left to lose. Regarding Prince Andrew's police arrest, it provided authorities with an opportunity to search his residences. He is believed to have been engaged in destroying evidence since December, though there is a possibility that data from hard drives could be recovered, and numerous mobile phones are said have been discarded in rivers. The police are able to interview his associates including David Stern, Amanda Thirsk, and Sarah Ferguson. The arrest is described as a hoovering up process. The author is unaware if Thirsk or Stern have been interviewed but suspects they either will be or have been. The author himself volunteered information and was informed that authorities would contact him at a later point. The Epstein releases identified David Stern as a significant figure, the director of Picture Palace Global, instrumental in promoting various ventures, particularly in China. The author believes Stern would likely appear on lists of individuals accompanying Andrew on his trade envoy trips. Stern was reportedly introduced Andrew by Epstein, performing logistical tasks in exchange for a share of investment opportunities. Andrew would identify deals during his role as trade envoy, which Stern and Epstein would then exploit. Stern also reportedly sought other benefits offered by Epstein. The author has submitted hundreds of Freedom of Information (FOI) requests, which have been consistently rebuffed by the Cabinet Office, Foreign Office, and Department of Trade. Despite assurances from parliamentarians that relevant material would be released, there has been no indication of this occurring. The Foreign Office continues to withhold details of Andrew's trips to Azerbaijan, citing health and safety, national security, and other exemptions deemed inapplicable by the author. The Information Commissioner's Office (ICO) possesses enforcement powers but has not exercised them in these instances. The cost compliance threshold for FOI requests has been lowered 450, representing only a few hours of work. Over time, authorities have developed strategies to evade providing answers. The author advocates for comprehensive reform of FOI legislation, though acknowledges that no government is inclined to implement such changes, as they benefit from the current lack of transparency. Tony Blair reportedly considered the FOI Act his worst legislative decision, yet the author views it as one of his best. Andrew and other royals benefit from a comfort blanket provided by FOI exemptions, which prevents the disclosure of sensitive information, effectively granting them a license to misbehave. Proper transparency, the author argues, would reduce corruption and eliminate vulnerabilities that foreign intelligence services could exploit. The author has submitted several hundred FOI requests over a 5-year period, carefully tailored specific government departments, yet has received no substantively useful information. Occasionally, a few pages are released, such as an innocuous list of attendees at a drinks party, but nothing pertaining who accompanied Andrew on his trips. Many names, even from the court circular, are redacted. One FOI disclosure explicitly stated that all information concerning Andrew would remain closed until 2065, contravening the legal requirement for release to the National Archives after 20 years. The author contends that exemptions for royals should not apply when Andrew acted as a trade envoy, effectively performing the duties of a civil servant. One request yielded a list with numerous redacted names, including a major general who worked for a charity as a private secretary on trips, and a man named Matthew Sykes. Individuals who spoke with the author indicated the presence of many intelligence officers on these trips. The Epstein leaks also reveal Andrew and Epstein travelling Libya during a period when Britain was fostering closer relations with Colonel Gaddafi, involving figures such as Tony Blair and Peter Mandelson. A parliamentary investigation is deemed necessary to ascertain what taxpayers were funding. While Andrew was sometimes legitimately dispatched by the British government to negotiate, many visits were reportedly self-arranged, often centred around nearby golf courses. Even on official trips, he reportedly allocated private time, staying in hotels to play golf at public expense. The author has submitted questions through members of Parliament and Lords, but these have remained unanswered. The government's reluctance is attributed a pervasive culture of secrecy among civil servants. Andrew served as trade envoy from 2001-2011, spanning multiple administrations from William Hague Jack Straw, suggesting a mutual protection across political parties. Maintaining secrecy is perceived as the easier option. The question of why Andrew does not reside abroad is addressed, with the suggestion that he possesses a palace in Abu Dhabi, where he will likely ultimately settle. A police officer reportedly expressed concern that his disappearance while under King Charles's supervision would be viewed negatively. However, the author finds it improbable that Andrew will spend his final years at Sandringham. Such a move would resolve numerous issues for the royal family, reducing press scrutiny and potentially making Andrew happier in a warmer climate. There is speculation that his passport may have been confiscated, similar Peter Mandelson, due being considered a flight risk. It is suggested that Andrew may not actually be at Wood Farm, but rather in Abu Dhabi, with a stand-in occasionally observed. The situation is described as involving smoke and mirrors. He would reportedly prefer be away from the press, rather than under effective house arrest at Wood Farm. In Abu Dhabi, he would enjoy the presence of attendants and deference. He has many contacts there, including his former private secretary Steve Harrow, who is now secretary of the Bahrain Economic Development Council, and a woman with whom he may have had an affair. He would be free to play golf and pursue his interests as he pleases. His daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, appear to have inherited connections from their father. Both accompanied him on trade envoy trips, incurring substantial security costs. They both work in client relations, one for an art gallery, the other for an AI company, and attend events promoting Saudi banks, which are deeply connected the region's rulers. They reportedly leverage their HRH status in these roles. The author suggests that a wiser course of action would have been operate discreetly, but this again points a persistent sense of entitlement. Both daughters are married wealthy men who have reportedly benefited from these unions. Edoardo Mapelli Mozzi's decorating business, previously struggling, is now thriving. Jack Brooksbank, formerly a bartender, now holds a significant position in Portuguese property developments. Beatrice and Eugenie receive subsidized accommodation in royal palaces, despite owning their own homes and being capable of paying market rent. The author proposes that these residences should be reclaimed and their HRH titles removed if they are engaged in commercial activities for profit. It is believed that titles will eventually be removed from all individuals not in the direct line of succession, leaving only Prince William and his children, and also encompassing Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. The Public Accounts Committee is currently examining Crown Estate property. There is a call for transparency, arguing that if a conference centre or hotel bids for Bagshot Park, it should not be quietly granted Prince Edward at a nominal rent. The Crown Estate would likely assert that they cannot refuse the monarch. A proper audit of Crown Estate properties and a register distinguishing public gifts from private treasures are advocated. If royals paid market rent, their occupation of properties would be acceptable. Royal Lodge could potentially be open to the public, similar a German castle, acquired by a wealthy family like the Wessons, or allocated Queen Camilla. Further clarity is anticipated following the Public Accounts Committee's report. Regarding the reported payoff, Virginia Giuffre estimated at $12 million for someone Andrew claimed never have met. The Sun newspaper reported a breakdown $7 million from the Queen, $3 million from Prince Philip's estate, and $2 million from King Charles. The author received similar information. This payment is characterized as hush money intended to suppress the surprise. The author asserts that such substantial sums are not disbursed without knowing their destination, implying a cover-up. Awareness of Andrew's activities reportedly existed from 2011, with emails directly sent to the Queen and her legal team expressing concerns about his role as trade envoy. Complaints were also lodged with the Queen's private secretary. Court cases revealed significant, unexplained sums in the York's bank accounts. Sarah Ferguson was also reported to have sold Access Andrew in 2010. Despite these indications, no proper investigation or action was initiated, even after the author's book was published. The Epstein releases finally spurred the royal family in action, primarily due public heckling. The crucial question now is what the royal family knew and when. They reportedly saw photographs of Andrew with Epstein in Central Park and with Virginia Giuffre. They were aware of the $12 million payment. The author questions their subsequent actions. Did they instruct Andrew, or did they attempt to suppress the issue? King Charles issued a statement a month or two prior, but it is considered 15 years late. The royal family is urged to be transparent. Firewalls have reportedly been erected to protect the king and potentially Prince William. However, evidence suggests Sarah Ferguson was made to take the blame for the news of the world's sting, and Prince Michael's aide bore responsibility for his indiscretions. The author believes King Charles may need accept responsibility as a punch bag, allowing for a comprehensive clean sweep for William. Otherwise, the problem will merely be passed on. As the Queen reportedly did Charles, public patience is reportedly waning. The author argues that the perceived corruption at the core of the royal family must be addressed for a reset occur. The author suggests adding Michael Fawcett the list of individuals involved in cover-ups. The royal family must proactively manage the narrative rather than react it. They need lance the boil by accepting responsibility, acknowledging misjudgments, admitting they let the public down, and committing restoring trust and respect. The author raises the possibility that King Charles may lack credibility as head of state and could use his health as a pretext to abdicate, citing precedents among popes and other European royals. Recommended actions include opening up royal finances, paying tax, agreeing be removed from FOI exemptions, creating a royal register, opening wills, and opening Buckingham Palace to the public. Silence, it is argued, only exacerbates problems. What could have been resolved last year has now escalated in a broader debate about royal accountability. The traditional mantra of never explain, never complain is no longer effective. Much nasty stuff has been suppressed. The fear is that a full disclosure could be uncontrollable and fatal. The example of MPs' expenses is cited as a situation that, despite initial negative impact, ultimately cleaned up the system and restored trust over time. The monarchy is advised adopt a long-term perspective. Even MI5, once highly secretive, has released substantial material, which has restored public faith despite embarrassing revelations. This distinction highlights the difference between William and Charles. Charles hopes avoid accountability, while William reportedly recognizes that such an option is no longer viable. The author, a self-proclaimed monarchist, was asked about the potential impact of his revelations. He asserts a belief in integrity and transparency, advocating for the removal of bad apples. He maintains that if the monarchy were fall, it would be due its own actions, not his disclosures. The most startling discovery for him has been the extent of complicity. It is not merely a few isolated individuals, but an endemic issue. The Queen reportedly protected Andrew, and the press was prevented from holding the royal family accountable. King Charles may have obstructed justice by covering up Andrew's activities. Andrew's case is not an isolated incident, but part of a much larger problem involving the civil service, politicians, and diplomatic service, all acting out of what is described as misplaced deference. The paperback edition of the book, scheduled for release on May 21, includes an additional 10,000 words updating the narrative. New disclosures from the Epstein releases continue to emerge daily. There is hope that parliamentary privilege will facilitate the revelation of names and hold others accountable. A criticism noted is that only Peter Mandelson, Andrew, and Ghislaine Maxwell have faced consequences, while many others deserve justice. In the US, only one woman besides Epstein has been charged, which is viewed as problematic. Many of Epstein's associates, such as Leslie Graff and Sarah Kellen, were reportedly paid off and invoked the Fifth Amendment. Numerous lawyers are said to have represented both victims and co-conspirators, creating conflicts of interest that facilitated silence. Some co-conspirators have reportedly struck deals with the Department of Justice, suggesting that only low-hanging fruit will be pursued. The author recounted a lengthy battle with Southampton University over the Mountbatten Diaries, personally funding legal efforts to secure the release of material purchased with public funds. He argues that historians should not bear such burdens. Files that should be publicly accessible remain closed, with hundreds of royal files in the National Archives and Royal Archives lacking a public inventory, a situation he deems characteristic of a banana republic. Rather than a functioning democracy, files previously open have been withdrawn. The Royal Archives released no material after 1952, a period of 74 years. In contrast, the standard 20-year rule, there is no consistency in disclosure criteria, with some information held back for 105 years after an individual's birth. Even Alan Lascelles' diaries at Churchill College remain closed, despite his death many years ago. The author was commended for his persistent commitment, with both individuals expressing hope that their efforts will bring about change.